Hello. I'll say up front, don't expect Frontier gameplay today. One loop's enough. Right. So I've been sitting here for a couple of days thinking how to actually approach all of this. Last time? God, when was that? Like 2 or 3 weeks ago? I know I kept it short with some relatively boring monsters to just get out of the way. And mentioned something about family stuff being a little bit important right now. A bunch of stuff happened, and I would like to talk about those. Technically speaking, I'm just gonna broadly go you. Currently, specifically, you not watching ads is a source of money coming my way. So in my mind, you lots are technically my bosses. And I can't exactly just basically not come to work for a couple of weeks and not explain why the fuck that happened. So I probably should do that. And that's what we'll be doing today. I'm also using this as an opportunity to gather my thoughts and finish thinking about some things. There have been many emotions these past few days, weeks that I'm working through. And I think I've reached a point where I can talk. But I'm not fully done, if that makes sense. Like, I would need to... We need to work through... Well, I need to work through those a little bit more. So, the big talking points... I have not used this for so long. Is... I'm shaky. Family stuff. I should probably use some other... Yeah. Nice and ugly. I would like to do a little bit of a plant show and tell. I've said so before. Harvest is approaching. Most of the stuff was supposed to be harvested like 2 or 3 times a year. But a lot of the stuff like tomatoes and peppers and whatnot could only be harvested once because it was so hot that they were factually infertile for the majority of the season. So that's sort of a thing. I'll just go with garden, right? Because there's a lot I can say about that, and I think it's cool, and I want to animate more people to grow stuff. Especially with how politics and stuff is happening. So the way politics goes into this is I started a compost pile for political reasons earlier this year because a lot of fertilizer goes through Hormuz and that fuckery makes it a little bit... you can't count on it. So it's probably better to do as much locally as you can. And it's a whole shebang. You never really realize how much everything is kind of connected. Hey, Sarah. I would like to talk a little bit about what's going to change, quote unquote, with like everything. Because there are changes, and I am relatively certain you won't hate them. Like, this is not a you'll never fucking hear from me again type deal. This is probably the opposite. So I'll figure out if there's more on the way. We'll get it. We'll figure it out. So this is the, let's call it the family slide. This is the one that's weighing the heaviest. I don't fucking care if it's legible. Last time I streamed, I don't remember what day of the week it was. Let me check. Does it capture this? Probably doesn't. But I'm fine. Give me my studio and then yeah. Content, live streams, 30th. What day of the year was that? Oh, it's almost a month. It's a Thursday. Okay, so that must have been before then. It's a lot, I will say. So on a Wednesday, my mom had surgery. That whole shebang was a massive scare for all the wrong reasons. So I'm not a very family kind of person. I'll say I don't particularly care if I am, what's the word for that? I don't particularly care about being cousins with someone, or if they're like my aunt or whatever. They're still just people. So at the end of the day, even if we are connected by a bloodline, I don't know how to say that in good words, I do not feel any obligation to be nice to you, and you shouldn't feel that the same way towards me either. We're still individual people, so you still need to like do the thing. And if you genuinely are interested in having that sort of friendly and overall positive connection with me, you are going to still need to put the legwork in to make that happen, the same way that I need to put that legwork in to make that happen. You know, all like good connections are two-way. So you can't expect me to give just because you happen to be born by a person that I know. If you're a dick, you're a dick. It's like the shortest way to say that. And I have lived that basically forever. Like ever since I could think and remember, there were members in my family I did like and members I don't like. And that hasn't changed. Not for lack of trying from my end. Definitely for lack of trying on the other end. And for a while, I at best got along with my mom. But eventually we both learned to communicate what the problems are, and we have grown a lot closer ever since. And like right now I'm at a point where I would bring, if I did go out and do party stuff, I would bring my mom, no questions asked. She's cool. And the same thing with my sister, she's also great. And that's pretty much the end of the list. Well, consider this a spoiler warning, but now it is the end of the list. So, Mom had a surgery. Sis and I went to check up on the same day because, you know, that's kind of what you do if you're close. We arrived at the hospital, and it was like the caretaker. I don't want to call her sister, because that's a bit. It's not descriptive of the activities that they have to do. Was like. So the whole thing was at like 12 or 1 or so when she had to be there. And we arrived back at like about 3. And she was like, yeah, no, she's not done yet. She's not here yet. We should come back in like an hour and a half. So we did that. And she still wasn't there. And Sis and I were looking at each other like, holy shit. This could easily become one of the hardest fucking days out of nowhere. It didn't. They were just massively understaffed and overworked and literally just forgot her in the waiting room. So that's okay. It was a massive scare for no reason, but it's okay. She's recovering. So Wednesday, we went home, all was good. Thursday, actually no, I need to explain this bit a little bit more. For the past 10 years, my mom was also the primary caretaker for Granny. Fuck it, I'll do text. I can't write like this. Granny caretaker. This works, right? Like, who gives a shit? This works. I decided. The typical rhythm would be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And her having surgery on a Wednesday, of course, meant she couldn't go. And, you know, having surgery takes a little bit longer than a day and a half to recover from. So the idea was that I'd do the same thing that I did while she was in a different care facility. It's a whole thing. I can't actually explain it in English because that concept just doesn't exist in English. Basically, we call it rehab, but we are very literal with it. So it's an institution you go to when you are recovering from a life-changing situation. So after a stroke, if you have long-term mental issues, if you are suddenly wheelchair bound after certain surgeries, like you literally go there to recover, to relearn how to partake in everyday life. So far, so good. So that was a whole thing for like a bit over a month. And during that time, I took a schedule of caring for my, at the time, starting to have dementia and showing it, Granny. So Thursday came. Everything was good. And then Friday came. And I was getting ready to leave to check on Grandma. Mom's okay at this point. She's good now, but she was okay then. And yeah, so sister came. She wanted to go with me. Granny couldn't eat much or at all. We suspected that she had like an inflammation in her mouth for some reason. It really not good. The woman chain smoked for 74 years, and we learned that dementia does a thing. I call it dementia because I don't know what like all the subtypes are. And she basically lost taste months and months and months ago, with the predominant remaining taste factor being sweet stuff. She had COPD, which made eating really fucking difficult. So we sat down and went through a list of stuff you could cook that was very dense in calories, so that even if she only ate a little, it would be enough food. And anything, like, she was at a point at that time where anything solid was no longer an option. But I learned that she quite enjoyed oatmeal soup. So I was making oatmeal soup. And I think it was cold or burnt or something at the time. So I just remember I was like one bus later than I wanted to be because of the food. When we got the message that there is an ambulance at Granny's. And I was like, yeah, that's unfortunate. So we got picked up by an aunt who also wanted to go there, and so first of all, she was very not happy about lights. So every time you'd be there, the lights were off and the whole flat was pretty dark. So it's been the first time I've seen her in like proper light for a while. And I kid you not when I say that that woman had vaguely discoloration. Like, if your skin looks like this when it's originally something like this, that's not good. That's not good. I would suspect the same way vice versa, but I don't know. Not a doctor, by the way. Yeah, so that's been a worry. Granny hates hospitals, hates doctors, and refuses to see one, and tried to shoo the ambulance people away under partial use of violence. She's a character and a half, dude. She's a character and a half. So yeah, that's the whole thing. So that sort of happened, and we quickly packed stuff to go for Granny's hospital situation. You'll notice that I'll say we did and I did a lot. When I say we, I specifically mean either my sister and I, or my sister, my mom, and I. That is going to be important. Granny's hospital. Right. So, against all her rage in the cage, she got hospitalized. So sister and I, immediately after that, went to my mom's station. At that point, it was like, I don't know, let's call it 2 p.m. I don't care if that's legible. So we go back to mom's station. And nobody bothered to inform her if I recall. I still don't care if that's legible. So we went to Mom's station, told her what happened, and she pressed the doctors to be released that same day. You can't actually see this. Hold on. There you go. Yeah, so she pressed her doctors to be released same day, which they were very against, might I add. Like, extremely against. But given that Mom's a very family kind of person, nowadays she thinks a lot more similar to me, but it's still... Let's just say Granny did it for everyone involved. Everyone, again, being the 3 people I mentioned. So we arrive at the hospital, Mom freshly post-surgery, barely able to walk for more than like 3 or 4 steps. You like completely forget about it. So I planted her in a wheelchair. Well, we planted her in a wheelchair and started moving her around in one. And we moved Granny around. We being here the doctors and nurses and whatnot. They did a quick and short ultrasonic. And it was... So far to recap, COPD, some variation of Alzheimer's. She had multiple strokes in the past. Granny's the kind of person to have a stroke, wake up in hospital, and the first thing she does is open a window and smoke a cigarette. Like, that level of person, let's say. So multiple strokes. And we were there in that hospital hallway and were informed that the rudimentary quick check revealed cancer in its final stages. Not stages, stage, sorry. On the liver and pancreas. With a nigh guarantee that it's also like everywhere else. Not good. So that's a whole diagnosis. Collectively, like a couple aunts were there too, and collectively we got escorted to the first free room we found. Yeah, and then we moved her to a bed, and then she was there. So far, so good. Granny room, let's call it. This is stupid. Let's do this. Granny in her hospital room. This can be a little smaller, like who cares? I'm sorry if this is very different from normal, but like this is right now, this is also for me. So Granny in her hospital room. At that point, it was like, I don't know, 6 p.m. or something. 5, 6 p.m. ballpark. At that point, I mean, it's shit, right? There's just no way to talk about this in a way that is like, oh, but it was okay. Like this person is definitely living there, laying in their deathbed. There is no arguing this, right? Like already widely spread cancer in the stage where you do, like, even if she was like 70 years younger, you wouldn't be able to do jack shit anymore. Like, morphine, end of list. On top of all the other stuff, and her being like almost 90 years old. There's not a whole lot. There is no positives there. But at that point, everyone was still kind of there. And it was a situation that could have been overcome by collectively being there for her and being there for each other. I am about to get a bit louder because my predominant emotion from this point forward is going to be bottomless rage. No known language has the words to describe the level of anger that I've been in for the last about 3 weeks. Unhinged. So this is day 1. Well into the night, we eventually went home. Did the stuff when you're at home, right? Like, had a little food, did the thing where you shower and shit. Literally. And then came day 2. I am not exactly quiet about my own ailments. I am call it enjoyer of a bipolar depression, which basically, like, the biggest issue is that I can't sleep on demand. If I'm tired and lay down, I might as well just be up for another 12 hours. That's just how it fucking goes. So that's a big fun thing. So my standard wake time is way off from what would be natural. So this was a little later than like, when I say morning, it might be 1 p.m. So somewhere in the ballpark of 11 to, I think, 1. We got to the hospital again immediately to visit her. We packed some clothes for Granny because she was in her pajamas. Granny always put a lot of effort into the way she looked. Not in an extravagant way, but she liked to dress loud, if that makes sense. Like, not very monocolor kind of deal. Like, very visually loud without being the center of attention. Like, you'd spot her if you saw her, type of deal. Like, if you saw someone in a bar in the corner at the very end, if your eyes grazed her, you would have known it was her, type of deal, type of style. And like, as a character as a whole. She was also always very... She was a fighter, I'd say. You didn't speak bad about her family. You just didn't. She's the kind of person that got banned from clubs for being too violent and for winning fisticuffs too regularly at 70 plus. Like, you would not wrong her. She would fight you on that. Buck wild kind of person. But so immensely full of love. Unbelievable. Like a genuine character. She also always wanted to do things herself. Like she wanted to be a person, basically. Always. So she was against that whole idea of being in a hospital and whatnot. But it all progressed to a point where no single person, especially without medical knowledge, could care for her at home anymore. So hospital it is. She voiced as much with the little strength she had at the point. Anyway, we arrive to two of my aunts being there. My mom's still in a wheelchair, mind. And we arrived, and the first thing I hear is one of them asking me to go grab stuff. Like, oh, can you bring some coffee? Can you bring some water? Can you go to the cafeteria for me? For her. And I'm there like, you can walk. Didn't like that. Didn't like that one bit. But like, I'm visiting my currently probably dying grandma, who has been there for the last 30 plus years of my life, who has had a significant impact on me being the person that I am. And you're asking me to leave, to grab food for one of the very few people in my life that constantly shit on me. Am I understanding that request correctly? Didn't like that one bit. Anyway. So naturally I declined. Only to then be asked if I could help her look for and look after Granny's cat. Because the woman was so close with animals, like so close. I think I've met like 40 or 50 cats that she befriended over the years. Completely unhinged. It was nice, I will say. It was nice. Yeah, so anyway, she asked if I could help her look after the cat, which at that point is like 16 or 17 years old. What kind of looking after do you need to do for a cat like that? Like, you put food out, you put water out, in, out, 20-minute adventure. And I just looked at her, because like the first bit of I will not do that was mostly mental, I'll say. Like, I didn't outright tell her to her face that she can shove it yet. But at that point, need I remind you that there is the woman that birthed the woman that birthed me. Both of whom did their very fucking best to make a reasonable human out of me. That is laying there on extremely likely her deathbed while I'm accompanying my mother who cannot walk, and you're asking me to leave both of them behind to look after a fucking cat. Are you for fucking real? That part I did actually voice like that. Well, granted in German, but still. So, the collective mood was not very good. In large parts, to me, not willing to deal with their bullshit, knowing full well. So there's a lot of backstory to like everything, like a lot of backstory. My family basically has two sides to them. Basically, you had my side and you had the other side. My side always put a lot of work into maintaining healthy family structures. That being, if you imagined every situation in which you ever thought, I could really need a friend right now, the side I was born in basically maintained themselves to be that friend for each other, always. Also for other people that were not like, but like, that's the idea. Very tight-knit. Always open to be there if it was needed. But also willing to come to you with problems they had. Notice my use of past tense. While the other side was way more occupied with... They were very occupied with pretending to be this. Like, extremely occupied. They put almost all of their effort into seeming like a good family, into seeming like good people. I will go into an example a little bit later into this. But I urge you to remember the whole... This side is what you always wanted in a friend, and this side is pretending to be that. That is the important bit right now, but you can't see that properly. Okay, cool. Let me just get rid of this and let's go back to here.
Whimsy and Wonder. Whimsy.
Piss off, Whimsy and Wonder guy. So yeah, TLDR, I made a bad move. It's really hard to organize all of this, dude. So we've been there. And they pretty much, from then on, wanted us gone. That side of family kind of stuck together in their surface level bullshit and did their damnedest to exclude and hide information away from my mom, one uncle, and one of my other aunts. I put it that way because both of them are dead. There is no happy ending here. This is rough and it's gonna get rougher, I think. But yeah, they wanted us gone, and they tried their damnedest to deny my mom at the side of her mom. One of Granny's biggest fears in life has always been being alone in a hospital. She held the opinion, and I mean, to most people, this is probably somewhat childish and wrong, but like, she was of the opinion that if you're old and in a hospital, they will quote unquote put you to sleep, like you do with animals that you like, with pets that you can't really cure anymore, where it would be too expensive to do so, where it's not an economically correct choice. Like she was genuinely afraid she'd be put down. So being alone, probably a horrible idea. So at this point, she's in a room with one other person who is not involved at all, and would eventually get a third roommate who is also not involved at all. These two aunts would proceed to be in the hospital for about 6 or 7 hours a day. I don't know why. I genuinely don't understand why. Day 3. Right, so day 2, Granny in hospital, mom can't walk. One roommate, let's call it. Aunt's very pissy at us existing. It's like the recap of that. Enter day 3. It is now Friday. No, fuck, I'm stupid. This was Friday. This is Saturday, this is Sunday. Okay, cool. Day 3. We go a little bit early. Because, I mean, you can't really sleep then anyway, right? So we go a bit early. We arrive to them trying to give coffee to Granny. Granny, big fan of coffee. And they were screaming at me. Why the fuck is there no milk and no sugar? First of all, this is a hospital room. I don't care how upset you are. Screaming is not appropriate when there are people that need to recover. Period. Second of all, I am approaching my mid-30s. So, for the last 35 years, give or take, probably more as I learned later, Granny has drank her coffee exclusively black. So who the fuck is this for? Like, who the fuck is this for? It's not for Granny. She don't like that. They knew better than to try to argue with me that I'm not supposed to argue with them. I have I think I have made it very clear in just my intonation and my the way I look at them that this is not something they will argue with me. I was 1000% ready to go physical there. Like, I do not give a shit. This is not how you behave. So, the world is a very small place. And my sister just so happens to, let's say, be close with one of the... That's not correct. She's not close with one of the cooks in that hospital. She's close with the guy leading the fucking cooks in that hospital. So she moved all the levers that she has access to make sure that Granny gets her favorite food. So she got specifically made for her potatoes with all her favorite veggies on the side and a salad we knew she would love. We also knew that Granny couldn't eat. But, like, it's the least you could do, right? Like, the fucking least you could do. For about lunchtime, we left. I don't remember if it was to get more stuff from her flat or if it was to eat in the cafeteria ourselves. But when we came back, the other aunt looked at us and told us, hey, I'm very surprised, but the food in this hospital is really good. They gave Granny some really good potatoes and stuff, but of course she wouldn't eat, so I ate them. And I'm sitting there. Well, standing, really. And I just reach over to my sister beside me. Like, my mom is very aware of the situation. My sister at that point reached boiling point. Like, straight up. Boiling point. Then a couple more dumb, let's call it aggressions, were thrown our way. Things like... And I need to remind you that my mom at this point is still in a fucking wheelchair. And we get to hear things like, oh... Stop fucking pretending your surgery wasn't that bad. You should have seen the surgeries we had to get done. Things like, you're not allowed to sit, you've never worked a day in your life. Besides my dying granny. I don't get it across very well in English, because it's not my primary spoken language, right? I am very expressive in German. The language also just lends itself to that, and I like to use it for that. At that point, I had no words. My mom was a lot better in that situation than my sister and I, and just said something amongst the lines of, it's a bit stuffy in here, let's go grab some fresh air. Yeah, we'll need to go and grab some fresh air. And as we were fucking leaving that hospital room to go outside into the scorching heat of 38 degrees Celsius, they fucking dropped "You better." Need I remind you that that was next to my currently dying grandmother? There are no words for the rage that engulfed me at that point in time. This is going to be a theme. Day 4 went almost without any hitches like that. They knew better than to try again, because at that point my mom could partially walk again and I had my hands free. Thankfully they genuinely knew better. The aunt that ate the food that was specifically made for grandma decided to sit down on grandma so often that eventually her foot let a little crack out and she lost feeling in it. She then proceeded to laugh at grandma for feeling pain. Other than that, we did the usual shebang that you do in a hospital where the patient you're visiting is not really able to do a whole lot. So like, my sister's a very trained individual, so she did what she does best and administered some medical level massages, applied some ointment. We tried to feed her, we tried to get her to drink. We helped her with sitting up and like just speak with the woman. Like, she has 88 years of lived experience. Surely you'll find something you can talk to someone like that. I visited her often, usually with my mom, rarely on my own, except for when mom couldn't. We had our topics, I'll just say. We had our topics. She was always very happy to hear about the garden. She was always happy to hear about all the birds and animals and bugs I see. At some point, this is a while ago, at some point I learned that you can grow watermelon upwards so that you can basically harvest it like you would pluck an apple. And I found that so fascinating that I wanted to try it. There's only one issue. That was a conversation I had with her in her highly demented, you can't really talk to this person anymore level of Alzheimer's. I said, Granny, there's just one problem. I don't like melons. And she just sitting there, not even looking anywhere, just rattled down a recipe for cooked melon. And I'm like, holy shit. What do you mean? What do you mean you know how to cook melon? She's like, oh yeah, we used to do that back then. If you want to make it like I always made it, you just slice it in pieces, boil it in water, and add sugar until it tastes like something. Like, I'm a third of your age. You get overwhelmed if there's a TV. I am the tech person of this family. And still we find things to talk about. How do your own children not manage to do that? Well, except my mom and the two who died, obviously. But yeah, day 4, I am pretty fucking sure that my aunt broke my granny's foot at that point and then laughed at her for it. Now, I think it was about here. I'm not 100% sure. It was either here or it was on day 5. I am not sure. On one of those days, it might have even been a day later. It's all a mix. It's all a mishmash in my head. But we'll get there. Somewhere around here, let's also include day 3, I'm not sure. Somewhere around here, her original co-patient, whatever, got released. And she got a different person into her room. That person was a little bit more, let's say, high nose. When I say that my aunt screamed at me for not bringing milk and sugar, I genuinely mean scream. It's a little bit of a hyperbole to say she screamed at me, because both of these women do not have indoor voices. So for somewhere between 5 and 8 hours every day, these two would almost lie down on this 88-year-old woman that cannot eat food anymore, that can barely drink water anymore, that has to fight for her life to sit up and almost lay down on her. Non-stop playing theatrics, screaming that who could have seen this coming. Rewind to about, to last New Year's Eve, to my sister and I discussing that this was probably the last Christmas we're gonna have with Granny, and that there shouldn't be anything left unsaid at this point because it was very fucking obvious that this woman wouldn't live another 3 or 4 years. Who could have seen this coming? Yeah, Chief, I don't know. It's probably very hard if you couldn't see that for almost 40 years, this person didn't drink milk and sugar in her coffee. Like, yeah, for someone with that much attention, you probably really couldn't see it coming. Fucking dumb fuck, but not quite at that point yet. Not quite at that point yet. They managed to be so loud and so theatrical that it was decided that for all the other patients' best interests in mind, Granny should be in a solitary room. Congratulations on achieving your mother's worst fear in her deathbed. Good fucking job. Good fucking job. When they were gone, because at one of those days we decided to come a little later because we didn't want to deal with those individuals anymore. I basically managed to Sherlock Holmes my way into figuring out who complained. Because never have I seen a woman in my mother's age looking at me with this much regret. They weren't very happy when we came as visitors because, oh god, more of these incredibly loud idiots. When you suddenly had these three people in a very controlled sort of tone and loudness level that completely skipped all theatrics, that just had normal conversation, that fed and gave water to this old person that couldn't get it herself anymore, that would very quietly open and close doors behind themselves, and that managed to look like they gave a shit instead of obviously trying to look like you gave a shit, because it didn't fucking matter, because they were genuinely there for the person and not for the theatrics of it all. There was a lot of regret in that voice and in that look. That's as much as I'm going to say about that person. Very lovely person otherwise, I will say. Very, very chatty if you treated her like a human. So at some point, I completely lost track of how long this is. You gotta imagine that my day was wake up, speed run getting dressed, go to hospital, be there for my still recovering mother and my granny, and also my sister, because she's a lot more emotional than me. Again, I am bipolar. It is very limited what kind of emotion actually gets to me, especially when I'm basically at capacity with my own bullshit already. So I'm a lot more stable in those situations, and I like to use that to be there for the people that cannot be. So that was sort of my role in that place. Then you get home, and then you have to do, household stuff, because again, no one else can do jack shit. And then add the garden stuff to that, and then add an attempt to make this whole shebang my job, right? So there's constant 110, 120% you have to give through a crisis. I was basically dead. Like, when I sat down, I was dead. So everything is kind of just a weird mish of days. So let's just call it day X, because I don't actually remember which day that actually was. We got told that it's time for Granny to move into that solitary room on the people go here to die station. I don't actually know what that's specifically called in English. We have a couple terms for a couple different things here, but it is where you basically go and die. It was a lot smaller. And you can bet your ass, the moment I arrived, no one but my mom was allowed next to Granny's bed. No one. At this point, you could tell visibly that I am pissed, and this is something I will fight for, and you will catch hands if you so much as stand in the wrong corner. I was fucking ready. Because again, sure, Mom cared for Granny for almost 10 years, but that's basically work. When we moved that bed, because I helped the sisters, well, the nurses to move the bed from in between the stations, I said to my mom, you were the caretaker. Now you are daughter. And I will not let anyone take that from you. Not now. Live it. At around this point, I mean, of course, you do the natural thing where you go to the nurse and go, so how long are we expected to have her still? What's it look like? And they're like, well, on one hand, she still manages to get up and sit on her own, which is absolutely baffling, given that she probably hasn't eaten in 2 or 3 months at this point and cannot drink more than like half a cup of water per day. Could be anything from a couple hours to 2 or 3 weeks at this point. Genuinely hard to say. We don't know. You know, that's pretty much a standard response you get. There is one more sibling in that generation that is basically the lost son. Because he like barely shows up. He is a, let's call it, illness-ridden individual. Has genuinely a lot of health complications and also cannot, like, he can't walk good. He can't walk good anymore. He has a lifetime of factory work behind him and he's just done with everything. Like, everything. And just can't. He just can't manage. It was Granny's greatest dream, bar none, to see him again. Because he hadn't visited her like forever at this point. She once said she doesn't even know what he looks like anymore. Now, unfortunately for that guy, for my uncle, when I was small, tiny, just a little guy, Mom and he got along very well, and we would regularly visit. I have been I paid a lot of attention when I was a kid. So I also know which like strings to pull. Because nobody else gets him to respond to anything through whatever, messenger, through calls, through literally showing up. So my sister took the initiative and texted him, and I yoinked the phone and edited a little to, you know, pull those strings. And that day, he agreed in no small part because it was us who were asking to visit her in the hospital. We said as much. oh, he's not gonna show up. Oh, he's a deadbeat. Oh, he's a bum. Oh, he's fucking worthless. Oh, he's never gonna do shit. He's never gonna amount to anything. Ha 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 ha, he's not gonna come. Is not how you speak about your mother's greatest wish. But that's besides the point. We go there, because, like, you know where people live, right? So we go there. I ring the doorbell. He opens it like the tiniest margin. I was like, hey, I don't know if I feel like it. I don't think I'm going today. And I just look at him. Yes. Yes, we are. And then he's like, shuffles weirdly in front of the door, like outside in front of the door. It's like, hey, I really don't feel like it. And I'm like, you had that choice for God knows how long. It is not your choice anymore. And then I just grabbed him and pulled him into the car. We go in. My mom first, my sister with her. I'm still outside with my uncle, where he's like, I can't see this woman like that. I was like, I don't know how I'll manage that. And I'm like, it's okay. You're not alone. We're here. It's going to suck, but it is very likely your last possible chance to say your piece. Use it. And he goes in, and the aunts immediately start berating, and I just walk in slowly, close the door, and silence. They fucking knew better at that point. It's so nice of you to come. Sure fucking is. So he spends a couple minutes there, and like almost has a complete breakdown at that point. So I spend a little bit of time with him outside. Talking about things, you know, memories and whatnot. That's not supposed to be an arrow. Eventually it's evening. We go home. You know. Next day, we arrive. Well, I say we. Next day, sister and mom arrive. And spend the day with her. Her being granny. I probably slept for like 16 hours that day. Like, I went to bed at 8 p.m. that day, 8 or 9 p.m. And I woke up 2 or 3 p.m. the next day. Like, I completely crashed out. Mom and sister went there, came home, pretty uneventful. And yeah, we were here. I cooked a little bit. We ate a little bit. And then at around 7 or 8 p.m., Mom was like, I gotta go see her right now. I have a bad feeling. I have to go right now. I'm like, okay. 35 seconds from it is too hot for me to wear anything but old shorts to I am now clean and presenting. Yeeted into the car, picked up my sister, went to the hospital, and spent some more time with Granny. Granny was very much a party person. So Sister had the idea to mix a beer with Coke, because that's what Granny loved to drink. Naturally, hospital and all, so let's do alcohol and sugar-free. So the three of us toasted, had that drink. Granny was tired, laid down, we left. And the next morning, at about 7 a.m., the nurses called that she is no longer. About 35 minutes later, we arrive. Sure enough, she was no longer. I've not really had a lot of time to sit with those emotions yet. And I think I've made it perfectly clear that that grief was not exactly a primary driver in that time. This is now about 3 weeks ago. No, this started about 3 weeks ago altogether. Like at around or shortly after I streamed for the last time before this. "8 a.m. roundabout, we were there. I really need to see a bathroom real quick, but I will say this before. My aunts actively tried to shield my mom away from saying her goodbye to her mother. And then they decided at about 10 or 11 a.m. that it's time to leave, and they tried to drag Mom with them. And the amount of restraint that I had to have to not very vocally put my foot down, but instead keep it civil, is not what I thought I still had in me. Up until that point, I was functioning. I was there to support my direct family. I was there to support those who needed it. And I was there to help and be there for my granny. Naturally, as you probably gathered until here, rage was building a lot. But somehow I managed to keep it together. Round about noon, the same day, round about noon. The other members of this connected blood situationship, let's call it, decided it is time to plan the surgery and talk about I only know the word air for this. This heirloom is the only word I know for this. Also, I will piss my pants. I will be about 150 seconds. Alright, my bad. Yeah, so not even a full 5 hours after we learned of her passing, that part of the, let's call it, family decided it is now time to speak about the heirloom, about the funeral, and organize all of that. We specifically asked how much time we have to do all of that in hospital, because you'd figure these people whose job it is to accompany people passing would know the general time frame these things have, and like know generally who does the things that they need to do, you know. You'd think. And they said, yeah, collect your thoughts for a couple days. You have up to, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks where they will store a corpse. And by then, it would be nice if it all was taken care of. But if you can't manage it in that time frame, let us know, it'll be fine. So naturally, we had to do it within half a day. It was clear from the get-go that there wouldn't really be the whole heir discussion, we would all decline. Because Granny wasn't exactly a rich person. And I think she was in debt to some degree. Like, nothing insurmountable, but didn't have a house, didn't have ground, didn't have stock, didn't have bonds. Don't care. So declining we go. But that still leaves the question of the fuck do you do for funeral? The fuck do you, what else is there to be done? And there's people you can get for that. And money is a thing that I don't need to explain to anyone here. It doesn't exactly grow on trees, and the economy is rough, so, you know, got to talk about those things. And instead of going with, you know, instead of taking a list of all the institutes that organize funerals, there was a vote, which was 2 against 1, where 1, this is within amongst the direct children, because it's their by law responsibility to care for that. And instead of going, like, my mom's suggestion was, let's go through a list of all the institutes, call them, we know pretty much what we want, well, what Granny wanted. Let's go through a list and ask them vaguely how much it is. To which the other 2 answered, you can't possibly ask that, you cannot possibly get an answer on that, it is completely unhinged and you're stupid for thinking that way. We will go with the guy we know. Maybe I'm stupid. Maybe... Well, I'm definitely not the sharpest tool in the shed, right? I'm a fucking idiot for all it's worth. By my original trade, I am an electrician. I see the blueprint of a house or a flat. I look at something, you tell me an issue, and I can vaguely tell you how expensive it would be if you hired me to do that. And you're telling me that specifically for funerals, where you already know exactly to the T the things that need happening and the things that are cost factors, you cannot tell me how much you charge for that. Is that genuinely what we're arguing here? To which then they screamed at me that I'm a fucking idiot who has never worked a day in his life, and I don't even belong there. I'm not supposed to take part in that conversation, and if I really wanted, I should call everyone and like get price ranges from everyone. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. So naturally, we went with the guy that I knew because, you know, 2-on-1 democratic vote sucks, but is what it is. So the guy comes. Granny wanted to be burnt and have her ashes ideally in a white urn next to her husband in the family grave. And for about an hour, they seriously discussed, what if we just burn and put her somewhere anonymously? That's like $300, that's okay. If you do that, you as You as the person who lost that family member are not allowed to know where that is. It is specifically to not allow for a place to like put flowers and shit. It's specifically to avoid that. And they discussed for upwards of an hour if that's not the thing we wanted to do. It took me standing up and explaining that if that's what you guys want to do, that's okay. But in that case, I will fucking pay for the funeral my fucking self, and none of you are going to know where it is, and none of you are going to be invited. Is that what we want to do here? Live it. This is still the same fucking day that she died, by the way. About 12 hours after she died, everything was planned. Originally, there was not supposed to be a service because that's like $380. But after my little speech for the second time, they decided, no, actually, you know what, let's do a service. Okay, cool. Let's keep it small and within the family only. So only direct family members, meaning Granny's children, so my aunts and my one uncle who didn't come because I didn't pick him up. Their kids and their kids' kids. That's all. Here, I don't know how it is anywhere else, but here, if someone dies and you don't want to become the heir of you know, all the good stuffs and all the bad stuffs, so if there's like a house and money and fucking jewelry and whatnot, but also debts and contracts and emptying a flat or a house and like renovating that to be in a livable situation again. If you accept an heirloom, that is also what comes attached. And then also, you know, canceling all the contracts and so if you die while renting an apartment, you still pay rent for 3 more months because that's the minimum cancellation time. Fun. So after taking care of, like, in the first place, splitting apart who does what, so the funeral guy does a bunch of those things, you always do a bunch of those things, and the if the heir is accepted, you do all of that, and if it is not, which it isn't in this case, you don't do a portion of those. So figuring out what to do with who, which also was a huge discussion, which 3 of the parties present were screaming at me they knew everything about because they asked fucking Gemini, and they had the audacity to print out the fucking Google search response on how the law in terms of inheriting shit works in this local area, and handed it to us. Which, like, for how stupid do you take me? Like, first of all, this shit is completely, it like contradicts itself. Secondly, there's like 10 lawyers in this place. There's like 10 people in this place that know how the fucking law works here, and you think that data somehow found its way into fucking Google? Are you fucking sure about this? Naturally, it ended up being like all completely fucking wrong, but like, who could have predicted? So yeah, that took about a week out of my lifespan. like fiddling out everything and doing all those things, and then waiting for, what's it called? I'll translate this. I don't know. Authorities, sure. And all the things you have to deal with in terms of like authorities, and all the places you need to go, and all the things you need to sign and shit. Like all of that. It's a lot. We're a paper, like we're built on fucking signatures on paper. It's a whole shebang. So that took like a week. My mom is not able to bend down and cannot lift above, I think, like 18 pounds or so. So I basically need to adjust my day to also match hers, because I know that woman, and that woman is a fucking workhorse. If you let her, she'll renovate this fucking apartment within 12 hours. But that is not good, nor correct, nor helpful for her recovering body right now. So like, I spend a lot of my day trying to make sure she don't do that shit. So that's a whole shebang. Now fast forward through that time to funeral. I said very early on that I am going to hold a speech. Because I know how to do that, and I know Granny. I can talk in front of people. I have many things to say. And to my sister I said, I will do us justice. Because I will not stand for this theatrical bullshit that we've seen. I will call out all the things I think were unjust and wrong. Because that is also who Granny was. Very, like, to a fault. Just and in favor of the weak. Every time. So that is what I was going to do. And it is thanks to my mom's urging that I wrote it in a style that makes it not immediately obvious, but still conveys that I get to say what I want to say and get to send the message that I want to send, and call out the people that deserve it without them immediately knowing that they deserve it, by attaching everything to a little story that really happened, that they didn't pay attention to when it happened. I spent about a week thinking about it, thinking about all the things, thinking about all the parallels I could find, and then about 2 or 3 hours actually writing it. It's like 600 words long or something. And I'll just say that the people that I expected to be there, that I knew Granny, and were also there for her to the best of their abilities, and weren't there to theatrically pretend that they actually cared, but that they actually cared, understood every word of it. And they were very happy with it. It is a good speech, I'll say. Remember when I said that we discussed for a good while that it's only like the closest and most direct family members? We arrived a day off. And I look around in the room of the little chapel, and I shit you not, I am standing in front of 55 people. 45 faces I have never seen in my life. And my aunt proudly announcing that all her bosses and colleagues and co-workers and friends came. And I'm standing there. Are you for fucking real? So, you know, you do as you do. And a lot of the things that I heard from the sidelines were things like, oh, my aunt, it must be so hard for her and she cared so much, and like, oh, they were always there for her, you know, the kind of thing. And I was like, okay, so that's what you told these people. Oh, you're not gonna like today. You are about to have a time. Maybe a time off ever. And the other aunt of mine also held a speech, and my cousin, one of my cousins, held a speech. Now, I don't want to call them that, because one of them just stood in front of everyone, started crying, and said the word mother 15 times, and the other one didn't even bother to stand the fuck up. And at most, her direct neighbors were able to hear it. But that's like speech time, and, you know, it's At some point, the day before, the priest that was holding the ceremony was there and tried to be friendly with me, and I was wondering, why the fuck did we take that priest? And I later learned it's because he has a couple followers on Facebook, and my aunts are very, very, like, they have the hots for people. They want to surround themselves with people that other people know. That is their judgment of who is a good person and who is best for the job. If someone else knows your name, you're awesome. And if nobody knows your name, you're fucking worthless and you're beneath us. It's like the general level that these people operate in. But like, angry. So that priest tried to be friendly with me. I'm sorry if I'm jumping all like everywhere. It's rough. So that priest tried to be friendly with me by talking to my uncle about, who's also like raised Catholic, by talking about all the people that they knew together, and then looking at me and saying, your generation doesn't understand anymore that my generation still had each other's back and helped each other. And I'm like, Chief, you have no concept just how bad the tree you're barking up is. You have no fucking concept of the mistake you've just made. And then he tried to sell me on AI and told me like, oh yeah, I really like using ChatGPT. It really helps me with the speeches and stuff. I'm like, Jesus Christ, if you are going to read an AI-generated speech on my grandmother's funeral, I will throw fucking hands. I will recreate the fucking Crusades. Don't fucking dare. He didn't, I will say. But the thing I just said about don't fucking dare and I'll recreate the Crusades isn't something I thought. Like at that point, I was so done with everything. I said that to his face. I'm like, Chief, I will start a fight with you. I will punch you in the face if I spot your shit being generated. So the only things he said were generic things like, oh, this, that person made a speech and he sang a little bit. He's good. He did the singing part good. And then like read Bible verses. That's all he dared to do. Once we got over that initial issue situation, it was okay. surely did press a couple buttons before then, but it was okay. Yeah, so one aunt basically said the word mom 15 times and started crying. Cousin didn't get her ass up from the chair to hold a speech. And then came my turn. I don't know who's all present here, and I'm not going to check. I know that a couple of my closest friends, I have sent a vaguely translated version of this speech. I will not read it in full, but I'll give you the gist. So I walked there in front of 10, 15 people that I know and about 40 people I've never seen in my life. Sorry. Hey Granny, it reads. I know you're tired and I will only disturb you for short. You're no disturbance, you'd say now. I'm always happy when you're here, and I'm happy to be with you too. And how this chat continues, we both know. Often I think back to a certain Christmas at yours. Almost the whole family made it, there was so much life in the flat again, and yet you sat alone at the table. I sat down with you. After all, I came to spend time with you in the first place. That is the first few lines. Now when I read it like this, sure, fine. It's a little bit weird, but fine. I spent a lot of time mulling over the exact words that I wanted to use for that. And I spoke it with a very loud and strong voice in a fucking church. Basically, I have just called out the entire first row for being dickheads. For pretending, and everyone present, be it that they knew who I was or didn't, immediately understood what that meant. They were not happy. I then proceeded to recap a little bit of her life. As I said, she almost made it to 90, which means she was born during the Second World War. And so my aunts both tried to sell to the priest that Granny had a good childhood. Granny's sister got gassed. Her father died at the front. And as far as I know, her mother was forced into prostitution and never saw her again. Granny couldn't go to school and had to work the fields. Her only friends in life were the animals there and a dog she stole from a hunter after she saw how the hunter mistreated the poor thing. The predominant amount of her childhood was spent in bunkers and under abuse field work. That is not what I would call a good childhood with good times. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't fucking ask, which I did. Because to me, people of that age, if they are still able to communicate with you, are an absolute well of wisdom, survival, and an unbelievable will to fight against the odds. How the fuck do you not sit down with a person like that and just speak for hours on end? How? Like, you learn the best from mistakes you don't make yourself. Granny was fucking insane. I have nothing but respect for that woman. Nothing. Fucking insane. And then you're there telling me she had a good childhood. You sure that you want to try again? Fucking hell. Anyway. I recap a little bit what she experienced in life. I recap a little bit how she shaped me and has an impact on my everyday life. Like at one point I talk about how if you have a problem that needs creative problem solving, you like the most common advice is that you get a rubber duck, you sit it on your desk and explain your problem to it. And the thing that I use, like, it's not important that it's rubber or duck, right? And the thing that I use for that is a relatively large stuffed bunny that my grandma gave me when I was like not even a year old. I was a very difficult kid, I will say. I almost died multiple times. And was very whiny and very unhappy about everything. But the moment that I got that bunny, all of that stopped. And I still have that today. So it's things like that that I like recount, and like little anecdotes and whatnot. And I clarified early on, a little bit after this, I clarified early on that I'm not here to speak about and grieve your loss. I don't want to speak about you because you don't like being the center of attention, but I will speak with you. You know, the same way I did in life, where that is also kind of unique actually, but like that's besides the point. Before service started, you gotta imagine it's not a classic church. It's like a chapel, so there's no dedicated walk up these 2 steps into like an amphora and then speak to people. Like it was just a flat room with some fancy glass windows and a couple chairs, vaguely in the typical Catholic church arrangement, where they're like slightly diagonal. Mom and sister go in, sit at the very front, because you know that fucking makes sense. And then next to them is a chair that is currently empty, but there is a purse on it. And I can fucking draw. What the fuck am I doing? So you basically have this room, right? And then there's a little bit of a thing here, and here's like the flowers and the candles and whatnot, and a picture of Granny. And here's a little pulled thing where you can talk, and then chairs that are vaguely in this orientation, you know, and then like here, how do you? I don't fucking care. Like here's the door. Don't fucking care. Mom, sister, and then here is a purse. I had to go talk to the priest because I wanted to get a couple copies, because I wanted to sing a song with everyone, because every time that I had a longer talk with Granny, we would end up singing together. She was a very musical person. She loved to sing, and there was one song that she really fucking loved. And like, you gotta imagine that this is the woman that people said that like she couldn't remember what she had for breakfast, but she would sing folk songs with 1,000% accuracy on everything for 3, 4, 5 hours on end. She had her favorites, and one of them I suggested singing. It's called "The Thoughts Are Free." And most people only know the first verse. I deemed one of them inappropriate for the situation, because it's about how the singer in question loves his woman and getting drunk, and I think that isn't very fitting. True, but not very fitting. And one contained a line akin to, if I want something, it's going to happen and you aren't going to stop me. And I think if I suggested that, it would have been a little bit too on the nose. So I decided against that. So we sang the other three, but you mostly only know the first, and you only know a modern version of the first because it was attached to a car ad. I wish I was kidding. A folk song you only know because it's attached to a car ad. So yeah, I suggested the other 2 more verses, and I suggested the classical version, which is the one Granny knew. And I don't have a printer, so I wrote it down by hand, and on site looked out for a photocopier and asked around if I could use it, which I could, which is why I was outside for a little bit before, and then walked in. And I see this, and I see there is a purse, and I assumed it's my mother's, and I tried to remove it, and round about here is where everyone that I didn't know and my aunts were. And I'll take the fattest blob because that's appropriate. Aunt walked up and started screaming at me that that's her purse and her chair and I should fuck off and I don't belong there. We have to go back a little bit again, because my mom was in that rehab thing that doesn't translate well for like 5 or 6 weeks. During that time, I was caring for Granny, which means I cooked for her. I went grocery shopping for her. I spent time with her. I fucking cleaned her flat. When I say I cleaned, what my aunts do when they say they clean is they take a piece of cloth, get it a little wet, wring it until it's bone dry, go over the floor once, and call it clean. My granny lived in that place for, I think, 21 years now. Well, 10 technically. Everything was reeking of cigarette smoke and nicotine. I mean, I'm a smoker myself, but I know better than to do so inside. I was disgusted by it. Like, I was genuinely disgusted. It disgusted me to cook there. It disgusted me to touch things. So what is the natural thing you do if something bothers you and you cannot coexist with that thing? If your instinct is to say, well, I fix it, congrats, you're a good person. So I started disassembling the kitchen, scrubbing it clean to the point that, might I add, it is still spotless white. I scrubbed the floors. The only thing I didn't do was scrub the windows. But it was remarkably clean. I later heard that my other aunt, who, like, the same one, claimed all that valor for herself, and sometimes would drop me in a run-on side sentence like, oh yeah, he helped a little too. And that I had a translation in head for what she said, which was accurate. Yeah. This Sasch guy, he can really put in some work, you just gotta whip the boy. Is vaguely how you would translate what she said. And then she proceeded to ask to be paid for the driving. This was her mom, might I add. So she yelled at me for wanting to sit with my family, and we then proceeded to move on over here. After she made a ginormous scene. And then, like, my cousin and, like, these families all came to sit here, and then she offered to move. And I'm like, it would be so gratifying to go physical here. It would be so gratifying. Anyway, so we sit here. I do my speech. Everyone angry. We go to the grave together. My sister brew some black coffee the way Granny liked it and poured it into the grave. Granny chain smoked for 74 years. So I put a cigarette down. And we were pretty much done. That was that. At the grave. You know, the whole crying and stuff happening, emotions. 3 groups of people I have never seen in my life walked up to me individually, like separately, and thanked me for holding a speech like that they were impressed that I could do that, and that they were thankful for portraying Grandma the way she really was. And it was vaguely at that point that I learned that these people that my aunt introduced as her friends and colleagues just so happened to be actual old friends with Grandma. A little bit later, on the parking lot for the funeral, there was a 4th group that was also very happy with it. And my mom later told me that 2 entirely different groups approached her and also were speaking very positively of me and that situation. I don't like tooting my own horn, so why am I saying this? Well, after the funeral, I crashed out and did a good long eep, because at the point of the funeral I was awake for 30 hours. And I wake up to this side of the family messaging me that I ruined the ceremony, ruined the memory, and if I had felt the way that I spoke, I should have sought a clarifying chat before. But I shouldn't do it like that. That is what I saw in those messages, because I read the little pop-ups. And I have not dignified them with actually reading them so far. And I don't think I will. I cannot put into words how unbelievably angry. And all of this is at most, the start of the tip of the iceberg. All of this made me so unbelievably angry. I genuinely had to do some soul searching first. I spent a lot of time sitting on my balcony, being in the garden by myself, and working on that anger. At some points, I genuinely felt like I should get physical right now. I wanted to throw hands, and that is not a way I should feel. That is just not a good way to feel. That is not helpful to a modern society. I shouldn't feel that way. So I try to find ways to experience that anger without it being in a certain direction or requiring certain deeds to be done. And after like a couple days, the main thing that had me angry was that I gave people that were talking so negatively and so badly about me and us, really, like my direct family, why I gave them so much power over how I feel. Hey, Retro. All made of short-tempered? Yep. Yeah, the main thing is that I was just like really fucking upset that I gave them so much power over how I feel. So that took some time fixing. That is about where 3 of the last 4 weeks went for me. I have still not had time to actually feel sad. That is probably now, like the next day or two. That's the family thing spoken about. Isn't that cool? We're what? 2 hours in and 1 talking point done. Isn't that great? I want to do a little bit more of a positive thing real quick. Any questions so far? You're gonna be able to laugh about things. I see no questions. We will move on. Cool. I have taken some images. This is going to be annoying, isn't it? Yeah, this is going to be... Actually, I can just do it like this, can't I? Garden stuff. So, the heat this year was fucking insane. Everyone, I assume, is aware that plants need different temperatures to do the best, right? Like, actually, I'll just make a new image. What's that? 3120, 4160. 3120, 4260. Should have been 41. So anyway, this is good enough. Well, thank you for listening to my story. We're doing garden stuff now. Because that's happier and nicer. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I want to do. Like, you know, when you lose someone that close to you, you start thinking about your own mortality, about the thing that you want to be putting out, about the thing you want to be remembered for. Granny helped raise me into a person to whom it is important that that they leave a place better than they found it in the first place. Everything right now is complete and utter dog shit. Like, no matter what your personal beliefs are, if you look outside, everything is shit. It is unbelievably hot. It is unbelievably cold. It is way too wet or too dry. It's like weather is completely fucked. Completely and utterly fucked. And I'm personally not sure that we have another 20 years as a species. That is my personal thought. We probably have a bit longer. And currently, it feels that a lot of the issues that you as a normal person have are completely unseen because the internet's overrun by propaganda bots. Powered by AI. Isn't that awesome? That is what AI is for, regardless. A lot is shit right now. But there are things you can do that make life a little bit less shit. That potentially make the world a little bit better. One of the things that is going to shit is likely going to be food prices going forward. Because both fertilizer is going to go, if it hasn't already gone to fuck. And like, I mean, you've read the news in America, right? Like you see how do I really need to say words to that? How's the diarrhea going, you know? But there's a couple of things you can do here. It's not immediate, but having a couple pots with soil can already make a lot and teach you a lot at pretty much any age, right? You just plop down a few tomato seeds, water it a little bit, care that it gets enough sun, and, you know, it's awesome. And it's so awesome that I want to animate people to do that as well. You don't need to know a whole lot about anything to do plant stuff. And in my experience, stuff that you plant and harvest yourself is so much better tasting than the stuff you can buy at stores. Why you do things doesn't fucking matter, but hey, look out for yourself and eat good stuff that ideally you grow yourself. So that is something that I want to talk about more regularly. Like, not like make it a whole focal point, but like bring up a little bit. And so I started taking a bit more pictures and, you know, want to share that in the hopes of getting more people to also grow stuff, because it's awesome. The temperatures were fucking wild this year. This is the harvest of 16 potato plants. It's about, I think it's like 4 kilos, like 8 or 9 pounds, ballpark. It's all right. Like, a large problem this year was that it was so hot and dry that a lot of the stuff that usually makes flowers, of which it develops fruit, has become infertile due to the heat. So a lot of the plants that you would harvest multiple times, like peppers or tomatoes, you get one harvest that's right now. Well, plus minus right now. Our tomatoes still need a little bit of time. Potatoes were doing horrible. Corn was doing horrible. Beans were not very happy, all things considered. But this, considering the amount of effort that this took, is still neat. Because all you do is yeet these, like, I don't know who of you already, like, planted potatoes ever. All you do is you dig a little hole, not even very deep. It's like one hand, like you shove a hand directly into the ground. You shove aside that soil, you put the potato in, you push the soil back, potatoes in. That is vaguely how you do potatoes. And then, like, if it's super dry, you water it every now and again. But if you put it directly into soil, like soil, not into a pot or something, then that's really all you need to do. Not that complicated. They were fucking amazing. Like, they were so good. I'm a lazy piece of shit, so I don't like peeling potatoes. So it was really cool that I should probably change the background music. Yeah, I'm a lazy piece of shit. I don't like peeling them, so it's really cool that you can eat the peel with these. It really adds to the texture and flavor, and I'm a huge fan, and I love it, and it's great. And I'm very happy that that's a thing that happened. We had some onions too. I don't have pictures of those on hand. Also, I'm really bad at taking pictures. Like, so part of the reason that I'm doing this whole shebang where I have a character representation of me instead of like being there, not only am I ugly, I'm also horrendous with cameras. Like, absurdly bad. Makes them snappy to bite like a sausage. True. No, it's really good. It's also, allegedly, it's really healthy, but I don't care enough about that. My laziness is overwhelming, and you don't need to... Like, I don't need to peel the ones that I grow myself. I know to a T what's inside them. This is our triumvirate of tomatoes. They are about golf ball size. This is the only harvest they are gonna get this year. I have not pruned them. Not even once. Never have. I put... Like, I have a little thing. Let me scroll real quick if I have pictures of it somewhere. So I have some plastic boxes with little predetermined compartments where you put seed to grow little seedlings to then put into their final place. Well, usually into one middle place and then the final place. But I'm too lazy for all of that. I grow them until they have leaves and then they go where they go. It's no... Oh, okay, these are good too. Yeah, it's no rocket science. It's really not. So they go where they go. And that's all I did for them. And then, of course, water like every day because they're tomatoes and tomatoes are thirsty. Giga thirsty. These are about golf ball size. I don't know if I took a picture of it. But I saw them when they were really thirsty. And I would estimate about 4 or 5 kilos of tomato on these three. Despite the heat and despite not really knowing what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to prune them. So I never did. That picture is a little bit older now. And let me see. Yeah, this is a different tomato, but it's from today. Freshly watered. So this is what you'll see. I can just draw, I'm an idiot. This is how it looks. I need to make it thicker. This is how it looks if your soil is clay. And my soil is clay. So if it gets dry, it'll rip apart and water will just flow. It'll go in on the top and go out on the bottom, and like it takes forever for it to actually soak. And if it's even mildly humid, it'll basically seal on top. Which it has good, like, it's a good property for a lot of plants, but for thirsty plants it's horrible. But it is also really fucking full of nutrients because nothing grew in here for like 10 years, if not longer. There's a different variety, as you can tell, because like, I mean, look at the things. They're like very weirdly shaped. I have not tried one of these yet. But they do look good to me. We harvested some today. I don't know how usable they are. So I'm gonna try later. And by later I mean tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Big fan. But that's like potatoes, tomatoes, you know, stuff that you tend to see in gardens. What about celery? Celery is a little bit like tomato in that it is thirsty. These are about, I would say, a little bit smaller than a handball. I don't like most vegetables. I love potato. I really like rice. Not the greatest fan of noodles, not the greatest fan of bread. And usually my breakfast is oatmeal type of food. Almost all the things I fucking hate, we ended up growing at some point, and it's fantastic. Hello, Pumbaa. We are doing garden talks. Here is some more tomato. I swear I speak English. I need to hop around a bit. I am not very well organized for this. And then, is this a good image? It is. Right. So these are, I think they are... Let me check the translation. Qurans. Allegedly. I don't know English good. So these are allegedly Qurans. These bushes, and then there's just some random pretties in between. And these are strawberries. They are like at the very top end side. It's like strawberries in a pot, and you can see how tall they are. They are now 3 years old, and they usually die down in summer. For whatever reason, this summer they decided to not die. I have no idea what happened with them, but they decided to not go dead, and this is them now. What the shit? So that's fantastic. I am very excited. I will probably, for next year, we'll probably get like 2 or 3 more varieties that are a later harvest, because these are spring harvest. Like after it's cold, they bloom, and then the bees and the flowers, you know, they do their thing, ooh woo, and then you get strawberries. They're pretty fucking good. Like they're really good. I don't like strawberries. They're fantastic. I eat those happily. And yeah, so I'm eyeing getting more varieties of these so that we have something for like at least 3 of the 4 seasons. I know there's summer and autumn varieties. I'm not 100% on winter. But I definitely want more varieties to have harvest on other times. Okay, this is not garden, but I feel like it fits. This is the cat. So the way this works is originally Granny had cars, and then, you know, cars only live to a certain age and then they don't. So we got a new car and parked it at Granny's to befriend. And this girl is, ignore my feet and the horrible picture quality. This girl is, I think, 17 years old now. She is a free roamer, but we're not letting her do that right now because the balcony is a 2-meter drop, and we don't think that's healthy for a car that age. She would make it down, but I don't think she would make it back up. For reference, my bed is like 0.5 meter, and she has to climb that, and there is nothing to climb here. So we're building a ramp for her first, and I just hope she doesn't hunt, because if I notice that she hunts or otherwise smacks the local birds, she's gonna stay inside. She's very unhappy about that, but she is also extremely cuddly. Like, she does not get bored of cuddles, she gets bored of the people that are cuddling her. She will sit on my mom's lap for 5 hours, then go outside my door and start screaming, where I have never experienced love, I don't know what food looks like, where. Then you open the door and she goes in and she wants more cuddles for like 3 hours, and then my sister decides to visit, and then she's her next victim and she has to cuddle for 4 hours. She does not stop cuddling, she only gets bored of the hand that's petting her. unbelievably cuddly little girl. Wonderful cat. Wonderful. She does not bite cables. She does not, like, she doesn't scratch furniture. This is a lottery win of a cat. Genuinely. Fucking insane. And I'm so happy that Granny had her company for so long. Really cool cat. Her name is Meowie. No, it's genuinely a lovely cat. I've never had a cat in my adult life because I don't feel fit to care for one, but now pressed in the situation, it's manageable. Yowie. Yes, this cat's name is Porn. No, it's Meowie, like the noise they make, and then you add an IE. Except in German, but you know, it translates literally. These are more tomato. Again, I never pruned them. So, Retro over on the YouTube chat side. I think I can say that I successfully bullied you into also growing stuff. And you were looking up how to prune them and stuff, and I did not. And we have a sort of, not a straight up competition, but I do want to compare with you after you harvested how that is versus how me just doing fuck all with the tomatoes is. Cat named Yaoi fights dog named Yuri when. True. Real. The cat would win, I will say. The cat would win. She takes no shit. But yeah, I do want to compare what it's like when you prune versus when you don't prune. Because I'm a greedy little bitch and I will hoard all the leaves. Plants are awesome, man. There's a few more tomato pictures I'm going to show you, but I'm not going to go in depth about talking about them. This is mostly the same plants, but at different angles. You've already seen this one. I have shown you this one. Let me see what this is. I decided the other pictures are not good enough because I forgot which ones I showed you and which I did. Onions. Any onion enjoyers? Because that's what an onion looks like. Need to grow the regular tomatoes? Yeah, sure enough. So this is what an onion looks like if it's small. Onions are the, I would say, most complicated plant that I am growing currently. Not because it's actually hard to care for them. Also, there's weeds in here, just ignore them. I just didn't want to weed them yet. I'll do so at some later point. So, when you grow onion from seed, right, you will put in the seed like you would with any plant, and then a little bulb starts forming, and then it grows, and then the actual onion part is this stuff up here, the greenery, the leafery, this shit. This is the actual onion plant. What we regularly eat is the bulb that is basically the roots. Now, onions from seed first grow a little bit of green and then a little bit of bulb and then more green and then more bulb. And they keep getting bigger everywhere. It takes an onion from seed to harvest about 2 years and not 1. That's why it's the most complicated one. If you want to save the seed of an onion, you plant it early in the year and it needs to be cold, like properly cold. And if it gets warm after it's been cold, they will start flowering and that's when they make seed. I'm not 100% sure when you harvest them. That is the thing I don't know. If you buy onions bulbs in order to plant them and grow them bigger, this is what you would do. Like, I would now harvest these. These are red onions. I would cut the greenery. I would probably use up the greenery because it smells really good. And then store the onions dry and then put them in next year. Because, again, it takes 2 years for an onion to grow from seed. Not all varieties do that well. It depends, and you gotta check. These are red. I don't know how they behave, but I will probably harvest them and then slice off the top and then, like the greenery, and then just see what happens with them. We had yellow onions last year that did really well. They became ginormous. Or was it the year before? I don't remember, but it was good. It was really, really good. This is something that I like doing now that I have permanent beds. So this is what's called a green fertilizer. These are plants, like actual plants, that like feed more nutrients into the soil than they take out of it. A very common one that does that is beans, green beans. They do that because they filter, as far as I understand, they filter the carbon stuffs from the air and store them in their roots for later, but they don't actually use it all up. So that if they die, you put them back into the soil basically, and then they are a net positive on the total amount of nutrients in the soil. And this plant, not edible, is, well, probably edible. I don't fucking know, but it's not, like, I'm not growing it to eat it personally. And that plant is that. This is a permanent raised bed. And I had potatoes in there, which probably would not go well with the kale that I'm planning for winter. So I decided to just put green stuffs in there to then, dig in after it's bloomed. It's generally not a good idea to leave soil blank and to just have it like that, because it dries out and soil is alive. Like soil is giga alive. Go anywhere where stuff grows and then dig out like a handful and look at all the shit that moves in there. If it dries out, and like especially in a raised bed situation like this where there's more area for sunshine to get, it gets a lot warmer. It gets a lot drier a lot faster. So it's much harder for life to be there. So in order to maintain that, you should you basically never want to let that go. You don't want soil to show, pretty much. But you also want some level of control if that's stuff that, like if that's a patch of dirt you want to grow food in. So, green fertilizer. I also started composting, but I'll see if I have pictures of that. My neighbors. So we have a fence around our garden plot and the neighbor's garden plot. It is one fence for I don't fucking know what reason. But there's a giant fence. Well, giant, it's all relatively small, but like regardless. They have expressed not wanting to use their garden plot at all. So I thought to myself, you know what? If it's going to go unused anyway, I can just let the weeds grow for like the wildlife and the bugger and whatnot. What the fuck is this? Oh, dude. Why are you exhausting right now? Let me... Did that do the trick? Okay. Anyway. What did I have on the copy paste? All right, yeah. Neighbors don't use their garden much, so I let the weeds grow for the wildlife and shit. And now, because I knew I was going to start composting, because I was expecting fertilizer prices to go through the fucking roof. And I want to stay natural as much as I can. So, fucking compost it is. And then started mowing down. This is what that looks like. It's really interesting, because if you look over here... Yeah, it's fine. If you look over here, you see how all the grass basically fucking died. Like... I don't want to curse as much, but how else are you going to look at this other than this shit is fucking dead? Because it is. But underneath it there's green, which... This shit held water better than anything I try to do. Nature is fucking lit. But yeah, so this is stuff I mow, which I then use half and half for compost and for mulch in the winter to also protect from frost and give like the little bugs shit to eat so they don't eat my planter. Such is the plan. I have grown a wall of sunflowers and then also a patch of sunflowers. They have the prettiest colors. I don't know if this is from today or not, but that's just how it looks. A couple of them are so tall that I cannot reach the heads anymore. I am 182. That is 5'11". And I don't exactly have short arms. And I can't reach their heads anymore. Buck wild. So I remember trying to grow sunflower as a kid, and they all looked like this. You know, this whimsical, tiny stem. These guys have stems that are thicker than my two thumbs next to each other. And that's like, what, 2.5, 3 inches? Ballpark? It's like completely ridiculous how thick they are. Buck wild. I didn't know they could grow that sturdy. And they behaved apart too. All of these have multiple heads. Like, they're all relatively small, but there's many. And the bees love them, and the bumblebees love them, and like I've not seen it. We've not had one singular aggressive wasp this year. Completely absurd. Now, if you're like me, then you didn't know that both of these are colors that a sunflower could have. I didn't know they come in red. I had no clue that they would come in colors other than this. And they were old seeds too, that I just basically found in the basement. So that's cool. This then is my horrible attempt at the Three Sisters bed. Why do you behave like this? Good boy. This is my horrible attempt at the Three Sisters bed. So, if you have seen a farm, like large, commercially used planting areas, what you'll usually see is you have a row, and then you have nothing, and then you have a row, and then you have nothing, and then you have a row, and then you have nothing. Like, on end. And then sometimes you would walk in between, and like, that is how you commercially grow plants. That is space inefficient, unhealthy for the soil, and possibly unhealthy for the plant, and eventually requires you to use pesticides. That is not controversial if you think about it for a little bit. Imagine you're hungry, and there is this patch just out there where there's your favorite food and nothing else for miles on end. You'd be stupid to go anywhere else. And there's exactly 0 things that you don't like, so you just go there and eat. That is what I want to avoid. So I try to plant shit together in a fashion where each plant covers each other a little bit. So the idea of a Three Sisters bed is exactly that. It is an ancient principle. The idea is you grow corn, which roots deep. You grow pumpkin, which doesn't root as deep, but roots broadly and makes large leaves. And you grow beans, which put, I think, it's the CO2 stuff. I'm not 100% sure. That gathers that at its roots and gathers more than it needs, so that the others are also fed by it. And that way you have 3 plants. Nitrogen, thank you, that's the thing. I'm stupid, it's nitrogen. Beans gather more nitrogen than they need at their roots, so that the idea is that the others then feed from that. As a whole, the idea is to grow as much food as you can on as dense a patch as you can. It shouldn't work if you think about it in simple terms, because both corn and pumpkin are unbelievably hungry plants. Like, they are definitely the type that needs a lot of nutrients, but it works. If the weather allows. And the weather did not allow for it this year. So that is my sad attempt at that. I had corn growing early May. I had like 10 or 11 plants that I had from seed. It had days of 25, 26 degrees, and then overnight it suddenly became like 2 degrees for like 2 days, and then it became 30 degrees again, and that pretty much killed it. Completely. We had 0 luck with pumpkins in the past few years, so that also just was doomed from the start. And I don't know what's wrong with the beans. The beans were so eager to grow. So each of these sticks is pretty much my height. And they grew up and then across. Like, there's a couple that decided to grow here and then be like, I want to grow taller. Oh, here's another one. And then grew up that one as well. And there's a couple that did it across like 3 or 4 of them. I don't know what animated them to get like 6-7 meters long. They did not wield the harvest of a 6-7 meter fucking bean. But they were very happy. And there were a lot of stuff that grew on them. These are the little things that I put out to put water in for the birds, because it was unreasonably hot. Let me change track. No. Okay. There were 3 of those that were very, very frequently visited. That was neat. These are the strawberries from another angle. Yeah, that is the failed Three Sisters bed. It's also overrun by I don't fucking know what. I don't know what I'll do with it next year. I will come up with something. Probably peas. I can see peas or salad. Something amongst that line. Oh, right, the sunflower stuff. No, yeah, this. This is basically my plan for next year. This box in the background. So this area has all the raised beds. And I want to get another one of these so that I can have an L form here. And then there's a couple plants over here. But then this is basically area you can sit in. And then you walk out. And then this row is these at like half a meter distance every time. And then just, I think like 8 of them in total. And up front here, I want to have strawberries. That is basically the idea. That is planned for physical stuff that needs doing for next year. I have a list of things I want to grow, but it's not complete. And also there's like winter season before that, because duh. Right, those I showed you. What's in here that I can share? I showed you the current. I can... What's this? Oh yeah, this shit died, unfortunately. This is the front area. This was red beets. We had, I think, 3 raised beds, 2.5, 3 raised beds of red beets last year that were so productive that for like 2 months we ate red beets every day. And there's a lot of really tasty stuff you can make with red beets. Like a red beet salad is really good. You can clump that with cheese. You can bake it. You can fry it. There's a lot of really tasty stuff you can make. But your heart will sink every time you go to a bathroom. And after like 2 months of straight daily red beet, just because you grew so much, eventually you're done with them. So this year I only wanted to do 1 bed. Red piss, red stool. Indeed. I was very scared many times. So this year I only wanted to do 1 bed, but it was genuinely too hot, and I think the pests got to them. So that was unfortunate. They all didn't make it. Then again, it was so hot that my habanero got infertile for 2 harvest attempts. Insane. Fucking insane. And then... So, the sunflowers that I showed are in 1 bed, in like 1 permanent bed. Like these are in a permanent bed that is directly in the soil. The 3 sister bed is... Yeah, this is directly in a bed. There is 1 more to the side. Yeah, 1 more over here. That is salad that I didn't harvest, and beans. Just beans. They seem very happy. They are very dark green. They look fantastic. I am looking forward to them. But the salad, I was planting iceberg, and it just was way too fucking hot. And then in between all the hospital shenanigans, I might have forgotten to water them a night or 2, and that kind of stunted them too much. That now, where they are approaching a size that you would eat them at, it started producing flower, and at that point they are basically inedible. So I will just let them flower and just keep, like, I'll probably save the seed and use that next year. The thing about the salad is, though, even though it was unfathomably hot for them, not a single leaf was eaten. And that stumped me a little bit, because I know we have snails, and I know there's like pests that love salad. I have seen them. But at most there is a couple nibbles on some leaves, but nothing ate them. Like nothing ate them. And one evening when I was watering, I saw something crawling on the salad, and I was like, what this? And I look closer, and it's a fucking giant hornet. And I almost flinched back because I just poured water on a wild hornet. That's not gonna go well. But instead of attacking, it just crawled into the salad to find some dry and just was okay with that. And then I looked a little closer, and I saw multiple of these all across the salad, and they were just living there. They used the salad to lure the pests, which they then ate. They were so efficient that 0 pests made it to the salad. Buck wild. So like when I saw that, I was like, I cannot physically harvest that, because if I touch those, I have hornet. I do not want to pet hornet. So I'm just leaving it. And in return, 0 of them showed aggression at any point. The most aggression I've seen from the garden this year was when I accidentally smacked a bee mid-flight and then it danced angrily at me and left again. Like, all the life in there is so thankful and happy and peaceful. It is fantastic. I have not had an aggressive wasp. Not one. Which makes me think I'm doing something right. Actually, I'm stupid. This is the salad and bean thing. I'm dumb. This is the bean. No, the three sister bed is this direction. It is still hard. It basically looks the same, just more sick. Yeah, the strawberry. Right. I'm just dumb. Sorry. Yeah, so that is one bed of potato that now has green fertilizer. That is the failed three sisters. That's the salad and bean and the random flower allotment. Now, for next year, I am going to go no dig. So I will not be digging the beds. I will probably not be tilling the beds. And yeah, I'm lazy. Like that's the long and short of it. I'm just lazy. I don't want to deal with that. And the reason I don't want to deal with that is that for the existing beds, I did this. If it would be so kind. There we go. So this is how all that happened. I ended up breaking several tools, digging about a foot deep, tilling and weeding and doing all that jazz to like have proper beds. And then I used mulch in between because I had a feeling that summer will be unredeemably hot. And I wanted the weeds there to actually make it in between the beds. And those were the only ones in that whole plot that remained green. Like, those and the ones that grew under the dead shit on the neighboring plot. But yeah, that was the plan. It worked. There is a red pretty grass thing that I tried to plant there that probably is dead. I don't know. There's sunflowers in here. There were potatoes in here. That was great. This is beans and salad. This was only salad originally, but it didn't go well. And then this was the corn that actually grew nice, and then it was cold, and then it died. Unfucking fortunate. And for next year, there's gonna be a row here, and it'll be great and fantastic and awesome. And how this all started, with me even giving a shit about gardening stuff, is these guys. So, a couple of years ago, I saw in a local store that you can buy a pepper mix consisting of 3 Ravit and 1... They labeled it habanero, but it was a Scotch bonnet. I've always liked my food a little spicier, but that Scotch bonnet was so fucking good. Like, absolutely amazing. I cooked a giant pot of chili with it. And the one fruit was enough to make the entire thing taste fresh and minty and citrusy. Amazing. Just utterly amazing. And I wanted more of that. But then the store stopped carrying those. And at some point, a couple years after that, I saw them have it again, just like 2 or 3 packs. So I bought them and stored the seed and tried to grow Scotch bonnet. To absolutely no avail. Completely horrible. But then you start reading into, how do peppers work? Why is that a thing? Why do they do things? How to grow them? And I fell in love a little bit and started growing peppers. And this is this year's plant. Well, one of the 2. I have this guy and the habanero right next to it. Like, you can see the different shapes of the leaves. These 2 are just in containers, like, right next to each other. This is allegedly a ghost pepper I say allegedly because I don't fucking know. Peppers are really, really, really difficult to tell apart. Ghost peppers are, to my knowledge, the hottest nature goes on its own. Pretty much everything that's hotter is bred by humans. This is about as hot as they go. If you've ever eaten a jalapeno and you thought, damn, that's hot, a habanero is somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 times hotter than that. And where a habanero would naturally cap out is where a ghost pepper starts. Just for reference, they hit 7 digits on the hotness scale. You can argue about a habanero being just extremely spicy or a so-called super hot. You can't argue that for ghost peppers. They are super hot, period. You will experience immense pain with them if you are not skilled. And it's like, this is the type of pepper that if you use it in cooking, you need, it's not a recommendation anymore, you need gloves and eye protection. There is no arguing. Now, I say allegedly because the ones I see and like I research, like, so peppers all look the fucking same if they're seeds. All the seeds look the same, and if you try to get pepper seeds, a giant problem in the industry for everyone is that you can't guarantee that what you think is in the seed is actually in the seed. There's a lot of confusion about that. Because they all look, even under a microscope, they all look the exact same. And even once they start growing, you can sort of tell apart the larger group that they're in by like leaf shape and growing behavior, and then you can narrow it a little, but you can pretty much never exactly tell what kind of pepper it is. Now, these look like some ghost peppers I saw, but they do not have. So most ghost peppers I see have like a habanero top, where it's like a bell pepper but small and extremely shriveled up, and then this little hook down here. This is the only one that somewhat resembles the images of ghost peppers you will find online. But then if I look at heavily sped up videos of a ghost pepper plant in its growing stages, it's very much that. And if you read up on how ghost peppers behave when you grow them, that is also that behavior. So naturally you can't guarantee, say, these are those, but they sure behave a lot like that. And if I touch them with my bare hands, you can feel on your fingers that these are not bell peppers. You can it feels like something. It's also a general rule of thumb. It's not always true, but it's a general rule of thumb that the more wrinkly a pepper is, the hotter it probably is. There's some correlation. I don't know how true it is, but I've had very, very wrinkly habanero, and you could taste that they are wrinkly. So this thing looks very, very scary to me. I do hope it's actually ghost pepper. I do hope that what I read about them is true, because apparently they taste very fruity and very smoky, and that's exactly the kind of pepper I was looking for. Also, the purple behavior is not in line with... So a couple people suggested it could be Thai peppers, but I grew them last year, and they go like here in this climate, they just go red. They do not have the purple step in between. The Turkish pepperon chilies that I had, they had the purple step, but they also grew much larger and they grew much more tree-like. And these guys just went bush, full stop bush. So yeah, excited for those. And then habanero right next to it. It was... I always laugh at climate change deniers, because you know when people go, oh, it's just summer, it's always been warm in the summer. It's all like what those people would tell me specifically when I present my argument would have to be, it's always been hot enough and for long enough to, in Germany, grow habanero peppers, but also only get one harvest because it's so hot that the seeds go infertile. Well, not the seeds, but the flowers go infertile from heat. So that you only get one harvest. Always been that way. Because holy shit, this is the first time ever I see a fruit on a habanero. These guys always, and I've tried for quite a few years now, always just fucking die before they reach fruiting stage. And this guy has dropped 80% of its leaves, dropped every single flower it developed, because every time it decided to bloom, it was 43, 44, 45 degrees. So it just completely dropped everything and went giga panic. And now finally, it has the tiniest pea-sized fruit on it. Naturally, it'll still grow, but like, this is a habanero. Because it's a little diva. I know my little divas. But these guys actually started it. Like, genuinely actually started it. Because Scotch bonnet is a, call it subspecies of habanero. Really awesome. Really looking forward to them. I think my sister's boyfriend cousin, Sweet Home Alabama, has I think also grows. And I heard that like ages ago, and I thought to myself, you know what, if I'm ever gonna meet that man, I'm gonna trade some peppers. And this year I might actually get to that. Exciting. But also cool. There's just so much joy in growing peppers. They're like 1 year plants. And they have so many directions that their taste go in. It's fantastic. Fantastic. Now, the only downside I can think of is that they're not really native everywhere. I have noticed that our bees, like both honey and just random wild bees, do not give a shit about peppers. Even though they are in the garden now, I have to manually pollinate them. Granted, at the size that those guys reached, and the alleged ghost pepper is about 1 meter in all directions. At that size, you basically just kick the bucket once, and that makes the pollen fall, and that's just how it works. It looks so loveless when you do it. It's fantastic. Dude, I love peppers so much. They're so fun. They're amazing. And I'm really looking forward to more of them. Next year, I'm going to grow more as well. Like more varieties. They are pretty expensive if you buy them as a fruit. They're just not super fantastic for the wildlife. So it would be helpful to plant other stuff for the stuff that eats plants to eat, you know. Generally a good idea. The habanero specifically, to put that into the garden was a Hail Mary basically, because it like lost almost all the leaves on its stem. It only had a couple leaves left on top, and like it ditched all its flowers twice. So I put it in the garden. I was like, you're going to get sunshine. I don't fucking care. Like you can't possibly get worse than now. I already consider you dead, so do your thing. It was full of aphids, like completely full of aphids. And within a week, the local ladybugs went, you know what? This is a buffet, and I'm invited. And within a week, all the aphids were eaten. Like the ladybugs must have had a little war with all the ants that are present. So ants, basically, the relationship between ants and aphids is the same as between humans and cows. Like they will genuinely farm and keep aphids and drink their milk. Buck wild. Buck wild. Ants are fucking cool. But sometimes ants are also the reason you don't get rid of aphids. But yeah, the ladybugs must have fought basically a war against them, and they are now aphid free, which is insane. They started developing a lot of leaf. Super happy. Super happy. Part of why I know that that worked, though, is that sunflower bed, where I have just random assortment of flowers and sunflowers, those are meant to be attractions for pests. With the hope, and like pretty much everywhere has like onion or garlic or something amongst those lines, as to make that area less appetizing to pests, so that they go and eat the stuff that I plant for them and not the stuff that I want to eat. Like there's a whole little micro biome, maybe, of stuff eating each other, and it's fantastic. And next year in one of the raised beds, I want to put some rocks and hopefully attract some lizards, because that would be cool. There's a lot of wild lizards here, and I want to befriend a lizard friend that eats even more pests. But I also don't mind some pests. I just don't want them on the plants that are actually hard to grow. And to me, in this climate, habanero is not exactly easy to grow, from my experience. But maybe I'm also just an idiot. You can never rule out that I'm just really fucking stupid. That's always a possibility. That is... yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this year, for garden. And then next year, I'll make a proper list. I'll make a proper plan. Maybe, if you lot really like garden chat, I would do that in a stream as well. Just because I think it's nice and interesting to do that. And who knows, like, maybe people have more ideas on what I want to do, because almost everything I want to do is mixed culture. Although not necessarily all parts of that need to be edible. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm also enjoying planning things like that. And it would be a nice exercise, and it doesn't need to be complicated. But it's also a lot of Googling, so that's the whole aspect. Anyway. That is... oh, that's a thumbnail. That is that. Would you please just work the way I want you to do? So that is garden. Any questions until here? That's a no. Fantastic. Oops. Future plans. How do I do this? I don't know what you did, but you broke my PC's live YouTube chat. Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, you can, like, if it's something important, you can always join the Stoat, link in the description. It's not in the description, I'm lazy. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck it is. Oh, it's back. Awesome. Yeah, I was wondering. For some reason, there was more activity in Twitch chat than in YouTube. That's a first. But also everything is down. Like, I tried to read emails earlier. I'm, like, business emails. I am with Proton on that end. And just Proton is dead. Actually, I don't know what the fuck happened. I was gone for a month. Everything is dead. Twitch now wants to train AI on you. Fucking Proton don't work. Yes, I go by Sasch_X on Twitch. But I, like, just between you and I, YouTube chat and I strongly prefer YouTube for streaming. Don't tell Twitch chat. I don't know, man. I think the viewing experience, like the features you have on Twitch are significantly better. But who is going to watch like 8 ads that have no bearing on you as a person before a stream? Oh. There's a couple music people. I'm always surprised how many music people do Monster Hunter. It's buck wild. Big fan. Also, I'm not monetized on Twitch by choice. I could, but I'm not gonna. Cause fuck Amazon. Can't say that out loud, can I? Oh, who am I kidding? Who's gonna stop me? Right. Going forward. Let's just do future. Because that's less letters. People who like music like Monhan? Unbelievable. Inconceivable. How could he see? So, I am just a guy that is limited by the standard limitations of physics, biology, and whatnot. This year, so far, I have spent many days trying to help my mother with caring for Granny. Which now obviously is not happening anymore. My predominant worry right now is because she cared for her mom for nearly 10 years. Basically, the entire content of her life was caring for Granny and buying things for Granny and looking after Granny, things like that. So my primary concern right now is that she has a giant hole in her life that kind of needs filling with other things. She didn't have hobbies for the most part. She didn't really have interest, nor time, nor energy to pursue anything if it came up. So I will be spending a solid amount of time trying to get her more interested in participating in plant stuff and garden stuff, because she is very, very enjoying of how thankful the garden is. I mean, I've spoken about it for like 2 hours earlier, how fucking ridiculous this, let's call it, family is. So she's never really experienced that sort of backup. That sort of someone putting their foot down and being like, nope. And I want her to focus on herself for a bit. And that's what I'll spend a bunch of time on. Trying to get her interested in things. Trying to help her find a hobby. Maybe we'll find a hobby together. There's communal gardens that we want to visit. There is public sports equipment. Like, who knows what kind of people you meet. Maybe you make a whole new friend group, So that's kind of what I want to do in the long term but foreseeable future. She cannot lift at all right now, so a lot of shopping will only be possible with me. So that's going to eat a bit of time. But other than that, I will have significantly more time because I don't need to travel pretty much anywhere anymore. So for the future of this thing that I'm I don't want to say desperately that I'm desperately attempting, because it's not desperate. I am attempting to make it a career. So within the context of this, that means I now have more time than before to actually work on stuff. That will not be immediately visible, and I am still going through grief. Well, I'm starting to go through grief, but knowing myself, that is not going to take very long. And part of my coping mechanism is working myself to death, so that's also a thing. I have not started on the script for the last stream yet. I have taken notes. I don't know how to do it well, but at this point, it's like an hour into that video. It doesn't need to be top-notch, non-plus-ultra, super captivating. Like, it's fine if it's okay. I'm okay with it being okay. Realistically, it got like 200 views anyway, so... But those 200 will have a good time. I am thinking very much about doing non-Monster Hunter stuff. Originally, my thought process was, what if I do... Like, the videos I'm going to make are going to be predominantly Monster Hunt. That is an... attempting to be an A. That is not the letter I was writing. It's predominantly MH stuff. So, in order to get the footage, I tend to stream on YouTube and Twitch. That is just sort of a side project, so I'm not like disappearing into nothing. So the idea that I had was, I still continue to do this, but then I could also use, like, I do Twitch exclusive stuff where, like, do, I don't know, video edit, where I do asset stuff. Like, you haven't seen it yet, but I started picking up Blender a little bit. It's mainly for, like, text animation. There is now a tool, apparently, for Kdenlive that also does text animation. I have not looked at that yet, because, you know, I spent the last month in between fucking hospitals. Not for myself. Asset creation. That is something I could do. I could do script stuff. Like, basically use both YouTube and Twitch for Monster Hunter stuff, but then have quote-unquote a Twitch exclusive where I do, like, behind-the-scenes shit. Because a lot of that is basically just me sitting in silence scrubbing through video, right? So that is... If you're gonna think like a ruthless businessman, that is also just free money you could get by just having that and ads underneath it. It would also be something else, because eventually, like super duper eventually, I want to do a second channel and talk about other things that I either know of or feel something about that are interesting. Like, I don't fucking know, photovoltaic is cool. Like, just the whole technology is really amazing. And that's very fascinating, and I would like to eventually talk a bit about how it works and how you probably plan such a thing. That was a job I had, after all. It is one I felt very passionate about. I want to talk about peppers. I want to talk a bit more about why they're so fucking amazing. Maybe plants in general. I want to talk about YouTube stuff, basically, because I do scour a lot of places where beginning YouTubers are, and I see all the reason that they want to do YouTube for, and it's like, Chief, you are not going to get rich with this, at least not quickly. And you are not going to make it with low effort stuff. There is not a single, to my knowledge, there is not a single full income, like full-time income earning internet person that doesn't put unhinged working hours in. Even someone like Asgold, it's still like a lot of it is unethical, and there's a lot of questionable shit about that person, but it's still an unreal work ethic that goes into it. Like, even if it looks like low effort shit, it is still so much more work than you'd think, just from the outside. And I find that fascinating. Yeah, like... I don't want to go too deep into it. I don't want to spend too much time thinking about that whole situation. I couldn't care less about... But he's like the prime reaction dude. So it's like the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to low effort stuff. Yeah, I don't know if that's in this case. Let's not. Let's not. It's a lot of work, even if it doesn't look the part, even if it's unethical. So is drug smuggling. And yeah, I just find the whole process and all the things that you can learn if you actually sit down and learn, how do I do YouTube? How do I do live streaming? Like, if you actually sit down and try to learn that, I find that process interesting, and I think there is a lot to be said about all the things that pretty much nobody talks about. You know, that once in a decade video that drops from big guy that has heart to heart with the viewer that goes, you probably should not pursue this as a career. You know, that kind of thing. And that like I think the Ludwig and the Duck ones are the most cited and most widely shared ones in those circles. And there's just a lot of things that are really fucking cool that I want to talk about, but I don't feel fit within the rest of, you know, the primarily MH stuff that I do. And then there's, of course, also more MH stuff that I'm planning. Like, there's a lot of... Probably not a lot, but there's like at least 2 or 3 videos that I have planned that I need to work up the courage for, because I really want to do the topic justice. There's a couple very fun ones that I want to look at. Like, I'm far from out of ideas, but it's also stupid from considering that, again, I do want to eventually turn this into a career. It's also stupid to put all my eggs into the basket of I make Switch X content. There is, I mean, look at the people that have done this for a couple of years. Look at Fox. Look at Wyverian. Look at how big their channels are. You are not making full time off of that. You just aren't. Maybe if you do like ultra personal finance for the ultra rich, sure, mayhaps. But like, anyone present, raise your hand if you're willing to yeet like $500-600 at me a month. You aren't, and you shouldn't be. And if you are, I will yell at you until you aren't anymore. Fuck that. This is not my bad. This is not something you do for like full-time stuff. Exactly. That is how you should react to that. Like, Switch Axe as a topic, and like then extend it to Monster Hunter as a topic, right? Just so happens to be something I know and understand and just almost naturally like put a lot of research into. I don't have to research my topics for the videos that I do, because frankly, for a lot of the stuff that I do, I am the primary source. Like, I am the guy you ask how files work, right? Like, that just is how it is now. And that ultimately means that I need to be very accurate in what I say and very accurate in how I present information. So that is the angle that I use to learn video stuff, right? Because I don't need to put in the same amount that someone else would need to put into, I don't fucking know, a video essay. Because that I view that as a separate thing. So I can fully focus on make good video. And once you learn how to make good video and how to like make it engaging and get your thoughts across and like project the image that you have in your head when you think about the video that you're making, how to actually put that to a screen. You know, once you learned all that process, it gets faster and you start looking at tiny quality things, or you start challenging you to stuff you don't know how to do. Like my next steps are almost definitely dealing a lot more with Blender. Maybe, and that's a ginormous fucking maybe, I will look at music stuff, but that is like possibly years out. Possibly. But once I know how to make good video, I would like to treat MH stuff as like the side stuff, hobby stuff, and set up to such a degree that I don't need to spend a lot of effort and a lot of time to make a good video anymore. And then instead do the whole creative growth and getting better for other stuff for a channel that isn't this. That is to say, in a very convoluted way, going forward, I am going to have, like in the very short future, I'm going to have a little less time than usual. But after that, and after making sure that everyone in my direct family is okay and can deal with life again, I will have a good bunch more time that I can then spend on being here and doing stuff and making stuff. So if anything, there is going to be a little bit of a quiet phase again for... I mean, realistically, I'm going to be sad for like somewhere between 1 and 3 days. And then I will do the script and record and edit that. And then there will be another stream almost certainly within the month of September. Possibly 2, but I'm not going to make any promises. And I will have, through the most unfortunate circumstances, more time to focus on all of this. There are a couple videos I have planned that are low effort in terms of making them. I don't remember who it was, but someone asked for a guide for the, and I quote, more interesting features of Math Hunter. They were referring to uptimes and how those work. So I would probably make a very simple... I would probably do it in a stream, and it would just be a stream clip, basically a long stream clip, where we would talk about how to actually build a set, where we'll talk about which tools you are used in what step. I'm going to vaguely optimize a set containing... I have notes somewhere. I think it was Scorcher and Rapid Morph. I wanted to look at one of those. And then just have that as a thing. Like things like that, where it's a question I see that I think is good enough to answer in depth, but not good enough to do the whole video production thing that I normally do. Like, I don't know. Realistically, you've seen the speedrunning video, right? You probably wouldn't be here if you didn't. That's generally you. Like, that level of production is not... I can't do that every time for every question. But I do hope that eventually I get to a point where I make enough assets and produced enough helpers where I just can do that, where that is considered a low effort video. Working on it. I might in the meantime possibly do other games, because like it's still probably Ascendance is probably still a good while out. It's probably still a good while out, and there's only so much I can milk Frontier for. And should milk Frontier for. Like, I don't want to do repetitive bullshit. I still have way too much to learn to do something like that. What games is a good question. I recently played... So, when I got my GPU, it came with $80 of credit for a key reseller. And the two games I got were Wilds and Barton Kaitos 1 and 2. So recently I finally played Barton Kaitos. Individually speaking, the first game is 4 or 5 out of 10. The second game is a 2 out of 10 with... I'd bump it up to a 4 out of 10 because the quote-unquote waifu that is the obvious one is what she is. But together, I would rate them 8 out of 10 because it's fucking unhinged what they managed to do with their storytelling. It's wild. It's bug wild. I tried to explain the plot, and every time I did, the people I explained it to had the same response, being, what the actual fuck? After I played the first one, my initial reaction was, this was kind of okay, like a worse Xenoblade. And then I paid attention to the splash screen where it said Monolith Soft, and suddenly everything made a lot more sense. It is factually a worse Xenoblade. And then it starts being something completely and wildly different. Very cool. Very cool what they did. The gameplay is horrendous. For like 80% of the first game, and the second is completely dogshit. The gameplay is not good. So I don't exactly want to play them again. But I might. And that is maybe something I could do a longer video about. That is on my mind. I've been thinking, why worse Xenoblade when I can just play, Xenoblade? That is an idea. Then I hear good things about the changes that were brought to PoE 2. Favorite game besides Monster Hunter? That changes pretty much daily, depending on what mood I'm in. I would say Xenoblade is way up there for being one of very, very few stories where I didn't see the plot, the twist coming years in advance. Xenoblade 1 and 3 specifically is so good. It's been a while I felt things this strongly as during that one section of Xenoblade 3. Extremely good. I really like Stronghold. Both the first and Crusader. And that's like 99% how it's done and about 1% gameplay. Because when you buy the first or Crusader, you get the EXE. As far as I know, there's no DRM. You just give them money and it's yours now. I.e. the way it should be. Very, very cool. Big fan of that. And then it's also just a really good game underneath. A set of games, really, underneath. A lot of love in those. I like the modern iterations of Roller Coaster Tycoon. Big fan of roller coasters. So stuff like Planet Coaster is kind of neat. Like playing that occasionally. And then it's already wearing pretty thin in terms of other stuff that I like that is currently accessible. There's probably more, but like neither here nor there, really. Nothing I would actually call favorite. Would I wish to focus some of my future content on RPGs? I don't know. So I'm in this very, very jank position. I often lovingly say that I'm not a part of the nerd subculture. You know, when you think of nerd, you think of math, video game, anime. I really like Evangelion. And then I can name like 2 or 3 more animes that I enjoy, and I have very little interest in almost any of them. You see the amount of time I spend in Monster Hunter. You see the dedication I have for that. You see the under the hood searching that I do. I have played maybe 30 games in my life. There is 3 or 4 games in my Steam library of 48 games that I have not played. Games is sometimes very loosely in those. I'm sorry, Nolan. I would like to play more games, I think. And if I see some that I think are really interesting or really cool, I would like to be able to speak about them without quote-unquote ruining the library, right? Because you're not coming to me to find out how you beat, I don't fucking know, FF4's secret super boss, right? That's not something that you care about when you search for my name. You want Monster Hunter info, you want Swax info. That's what this place is. So that would probably be a second channel. I already know that I'm not going to make a third channel with edited content. Maybe possibly just, I don't know, stream VODs or something, but like that's giga future. But like properly edited video stuff, I think I'm going to stick with this is Monster Hunter stuff. And then not everything that, like, basically. So they say that for each topic, for every time you want a different audience, you make a different channel. So as it stands, this place right here, I can't. Right, this place right here, that's Monster Hunter. And as far as I'm concerned, there's 2 topics in the world. One is Monster Hunter and one is everything else. Ignore that my handwriting is dog water. As far as I'm concerned, these are the things that the world is made of. It's either Monster Hunter or it's not. Now the business stupid thing is to just yeet this somewhere else, right? And just have that on one channel. But I don't currently care to that degree, right? Because in my mind, there's still a lot of way to go and a lot of learning to do to actually make videos not only consistently, but also consistent good. There will eventually be videos about other games. I'm more concerned about streaming, and that should be relatively long-term games. So another thing that I really like is Yu-Gi-Oh! I quite like TCGs in general. There's a bunch of them are really fun. Magic pisses me off, and I don't know any other simulator. So there pretty much is Yu-Gi-Oh! End of list. I have not spent a lot of effort into researching them. So maybe I'll pick that back up, and that'll be something. Children's card games on motorcycles. Yeah, so maybe that's the thing. I don't really know. All I know is that Monster Hunter is not... All I really know is that Monster Hunter and I are not going anywhere. As in, that is going to continue. I love Frontier a little bit too much, and the goals that I have with that game are so fucking high that it'll probably take me another year and a half to actually get there. Especially if I'm going in the rhythm that I have been going for HR5, where it's like I do one stream and then I slice through that footage and find what I want to present and talk about, and then just keep building the long video in 15-minute chunks. That is not something I can do for all of Frontier. Like, I mean, practically speaking. Theoretically, of course. I'll find shit to say. I'll find shit to animate. I'll find stuff to say and do. But it's just not feasible, dude. It takes so much time. I will, after that video is done, I will take some screenshots of all the individual timelines, because it's multiple. There's a lot of nested sequences, just to give you an idea of how much it is. Because right now it's shaping up to be about 1.5 to 2 hours in length. I have 45 minutes completely done and edited. I can't do that for all of the game. I simply can't. I don't have that level of energy, and it would get me nowhere. This is still a one-man operation. But it'll make sense when we get there. But yeah, those are things I'm thinking about, pretty much. Again, MH and me not going anywhere. Other games maybe. Probably live stream exclusive on this. And then if I ever get my ass up to make a second channel, then it'll probably live there. With like, I'll do the thing where I make community posts about it at first, and then we'll see. I did notice that in my absence, one person apparently subscribed to my Patreon. So now I need to look up who and what and why. Did not expect that. So excuse that I will not do the thanks today. This is all very... In the grand scheme of things, this is this has been spontaneous. I just felt like I needed to explain where the fuck I've been, considering that, again, technically speaking, y'all are my bosses. Don't let that get to your head. And like, just personally speaking, I often feel that I don't really have a space for all the things that happen in my head, right? All the things I think about. Because, like, the people that I'm friends with for gardening stuff probably don't care much about video stuff. The people I'm friends with for video stuff probably don't care much about... Well, they usually care a bit about the garden stuff, and then also usually care about Monster Hunter stuff, but there's like other things, right? And then there's also the personal thing, right? Things that just occupy your head and hinder you from giving your best and fullest at what you're trying to do. And there's like very little space nowadays. Like, I feel like a lot of friendships are weaker nowadays than they used to be. Which, you know, can't really be angry about given how the fuck the economy works. It doesn't. So, like, in a way, I don't want to call this therapy, but it was helpful in getting a lot of thoughts out. So that was cool. Even if it's an absolutely horrendous situationship in advance. Don't watch the first 2 hours. Tip of the iceberg, but I'm done being angry, at least. Like, I'm done being angry. I will no longer give that much power to anyone else to control and have the ability to impact my feelings in such a way. I think at this point I would also generally and genuinely advocate for, if you ever get unreasonably sad or angry or any other emotion, to deal with it. Not just swallow it, not just sit on it, not just let it simmer, but to actually deal with it and confront it in a way. Therapy is fucking expensive. 90% of it is talking, and 0 people will stop you from talking to yourself. Just, you know, take care of yourself. Generally. You're worth it. Anyway, it is 5:30. I have said all I wanted to say, I think. To recap, situation was dog shit. Situation is behind us. It'll be a little bit sucky for a little bit going forward. But we will get back to it. There will be more Frontier. There will be more Monster Hunter. And dude, do I hope that Ascendance is not going to be dog shit. And I think I speak for absolutely everyone when I say that. We need a good MH again. I would like to thank you a lot for hanging out. That was nice. I will not make promises when the next one is going to be, but I will probably right after this start working on the script, because I do have a lot of notes. I just need to actually collect them. And then we'll see. Then we'll see. Have I played Hades 2? I have not. I have finally got my hands on Slay the Spire 2. Thank you, Pumbaa. And thank you a lot for hanging out. I will see you at an undetermined, but not super far into the future next time. For real, I promise.